You know the best part about all this, Roger? She actually thinks she's helping me. I heard Margaret's voice through the bathroom door, clear and sharp, and nothing like the halting, confused whisper she'd used with me 15 minutes earlier. I stood frozen in the hallway of her memory care apartment, her forgotten sweater in my hands, listening to my sister, my baby sister, who supposedly didn't remember my name, half the time laugh with perfect clarity at my expense. By Christmas, she continued, we should have her completely tapped. Diane said her advisor called about the last withdrawal. Helen told him it was for my specialized care. God, she's so easy. The sweater dropped from my hands. I couldn't make my fingers work. Couldn't make anything work except my ears, which suddenly seemed to hear everything with terrible precision. The heater humming, footsteps in the apartment above, my own heart slamming against my ribs like something trying to escape. But to understand why those words hit like a physical blow, you need to know how I got to that hallway. You need to know about the 2 years before that moment, when I believed I was saving my sister's life, and how I ended up saving myself instead. Margaret's husband Roger called me on a Tuesday morning in April, 2 years before that horrible moment in the hallway. I was in my garden, deadheading my roses, thinking about nothing more complicated than whether to try the new Italian place for dinner or just make pasta at home. Tom had been gone 3 years by then, and I'd finally reached the point where being alone didn't feel like failure. Helen, I need you to sit down, Roger said. And my stomach dropped in that way it does when someone leads with those words. It's Margaret. The neurologist just confirmed it. Early onset Alzheimer's. She's only 60. I did sit down, right there in the dirt among my roses. That's not possible. She's too young. Are they sure? 3 different specialists. They've been testing her for months, Helen. She made me promise not to tell you until we knew for certain. You know how she is, didn't want you to worry. That sounded like Margaret. My baby sister, always trying to protect everyone else. Our mother died when Margaret was 12, and I'd raised her, really, put her through college, helped her with the down payment on her first house, danced at her wedding. She was supposed to be entering her golden years, not losing them. How bad is it? I asked. She's forgetting more and more. Last week, she left the stove on. Twice. She got lost coming home from the grocery store, a route she's driven for 20 years. The doctor says it's progressing faster than typical. We talked for over an hour. Roger's voice kept breaking. He told me about the diagnosis, the prognosis, the research he'd been doing. He'd already looked into memory care facilities. Just for information, you understand, we're not there yet, but the good ones had waiting lists. The ones that took immediate placement were either prohibitively expensive or, frankly, frightening. What can I do? I asked. How can I help? Just be here, Roger said. She's going to need you. We both are. I drove the 3 hours to their house that weekend. Margaret answered the door, and for a moment she looked so perfectly normal that I thought Roger had been mistaken. She was dressed nicely, her hair done, her smile warm. Helen! What a wonderful surprise. She hugged me tight. Roger didn't tell me you were coming. I wanted to see you, I said carefully. Well, come in, come in. I just made coffee. Or did I? Roger, did I make coffee? Roger appeared from the kitchen. You did, honey. It's on the counter. The weekend was heartbreaking and confusing in equal measure. Sometimes Margaret seemed absolutely fine. We talked about her daughter Caitlin's new job, about the book she was reading, about plans to repaint their guest room. Then, without warning, she'd repeat something she'd said 10 minutes ago, or forget what we'd been discussing, or call me by our mother's name. It's worse at night, Roger told me quietly while Margaret napped. Sundowning, they call it. She gets agitated, confused. Last night she didn't recognize me for almost an hour. Thought I was an intruder. God, Roger. I'm so sorry. The worst part is watching her realize it, he said. She'll come back to herself and know she's lost time. She cries. Helen. Every night, she cries. I visited every weekend after that. Made the 6-hour round trip every Friday afternoon, came back Sunday evening. My daughter Diane thought I was overdoing it. Mom, you need to take care of yourself too, she said when I called to cancel our standing Thursday dinner for the 3rd week in a row. I know you love Aunt Margaret, but Roger is there. You don't have to carry this alone. She's my sister, I said simply. She raised you almost as much as I did. Remember how she picked you up from school every day for 2 years when I was teaching night classes? How she threw you that graduation party? I know. You are right. I'm sorry. Diane paused. I just worry about you. Do you need anything? Money for gas? I'm fine, honey. But thank you. The progression was devastating to watch. Within 6 months, Margaret was forgetting entire conversations. She'd ask the same questions 5, 6 times in an hour. She burned herself making tea because she forgot the water was hot. She got confused about which pills to take when. Roger was exhausted, working full-time and caring for her. I started staying longer, full weeks, sometimes. I'd already retired from teaching the year before, so I had time. My pension was modest but sufficient. I could help. I found a place, Roger told me one evening about 8 months after the diagnosis. A memory care facility, about 40 minutes from here. They have an opening. The staff is incredible. Helen, they specialize in early onset cases. They have art therapy, music therapy, everything to keep her engaged and slow the decline. That sounds perfect. When does she start? His face crumpled. We can't afford it. Even with our insurance, it's $2,800 a month out of pocket. Our savings won't last 6 months. I didn't even hesitate. I'll help. I have Tom's life insurance still, most of it. My retirement account. We'll make it work. Helen, no. That's your security. Margaret is my security, I said. She's my family. This is what family does. I paid for the first 6 months up front. Then the next 6. Roger insisted on contributing what he could, but his salary barely covered their mortgage and his own expenses. My financial advisor, Ken, called me after the second large withdrawal. Helen, I need to make sure you understand what you're doing, he said, not unkindly. You're depleting your principal. At this rate, you'll run through your liquid assets in under 2 years. I understand. And you're still committed to this course? My sister has Alzheimer's, Ken. Yes, I'm committed. All right. But I want you to promise me something. Promise you'll tell me if you need to dip into your emergency reserves. We need to maintain at least a safety net. I promise. I moved closer to Margaret's facility after a year, sold my house, the one Tom and I had lived in for 30 years, and bought a small condo 20 minutes from Rosewood Memory Care. Diane helped me pack, though she seemed subdued throughout the move. Are you sure about this, Mom? She asked as we wrapped dishes in newspaper. This is a big change. I need to be close to her. I visit every day as it is. What about your friends? Your garden club? Your life? My life is taking care of my sister, I said, more sharply than I intended. Diane, when you have someone you love disappearing in front of you, you don't worry about garden club. I'm sorry. You're right. I just want to make sure you're not losing yourself in this. I thought that was rich, coming from Diane. She'd visited Margaret exactly twice in the past year. I bit back my irritation. Diane had her own life, her own family. She managed a medical practice, had 2 kids still in high school. I couldn't expect her to be as involved as I was. The memory care facility was nicer than I'd expected. Margaret had her own small apartment bedroom, bathroom, little sitting area. The staff was patient and kind. They knew how to redirect when she got agitated, how to soothe without patronizing. They kept her safe. But it wasn't enough to stop the progression. Or so I thought. She had a particularly rough night. The head nurse, Valerie, told me one morning when I arrived for my daily visit. Very confused. She didn't recognize Roger at all when he called. We had to give her something to help her sleep. I found Margaret in her apartment, sitting in her chair by the window. She looked up when I came in, and her face did that thing it had started doing, a flicker of almost recognition, then confusion, then a kind of practiced pleasantness. Hello, she said politely. Hi, Margaret. It's me, Helen. Your sister. Oh, Helen. Of course. I'm sorry, I don't know why I keep forgetting. Did you bring cookies? I feel like you usually bring cookies. I hadn't brought cookies in 3 months. She was remembering something from earlier in her stay, mixing up the timeline. But I smiled. Not today. How are you feeling? Fine. Tired. Did I tell you about the birds? There's a cardinal that comes to the feeder. The same one every day, I think. We talked about the cardinal, about the weather, about nothing really, because she couldn't hold on to any topic for more than a few minutes. I brought her lunch from the dining hall, made sure she ate. I organized her medications, the facility did it too. But I liked to check, liked to feel useful. Roger arrived in the afternoon. He looked terrible, graying, thinner, aged 10 years in the past 18 months. How is she? He asked me in the hallway. The same, maybe a little more confused than last week. The doctor wants to try a new medication. It might help slow things down. He rubbed his face. It's not covered by insurance though. $300 a month out of pocket. I'll handle it, I said. Helen. Roger, please. Let me do this. You're drowning in expenses as it is. He hugged me, this man I'd known for 30 years, and I felt him shaking. I don't know what we'd do without you. I didn't know what I'd do without them either. Taking care of Margaret had become my whole life. I'd let friendships drift, stopped going to book club, gave up my volunteering at the literacy center. But it felt right. Margaret had taken care of me when Mom died, had basically given up her own teenage years to help me manage. This was payback. This was love. Diane started calling more regularly, checking in. She'd even visited a few times, though the visits were clearly hard for her. Margaret didn't always recognize her, and when she did, she sometimes thought Diane was still a child. How are you holding up financially? Diane asked during one call. This was about 18 months in. I'm managing. Mom, I know you've been paying for a lot of Aunt Margaret's care. I could help. I've been setting some money aside. That's sweet, honey, but I'm fine. You have your own family to think about. You're my family too. And I know you sold the house, moved, changed your whole life. That's got to be depleting your savings. Diane, I appreciate the concern, but truly, I'm fine. I have enough. I did have enough, technically. Enough for another year, maybe 2 if I was very careful. But I didn't want to worry Diane with the specifics. She had enough on her plate. The second year was harder than the first. Margaret stopped recognizing me at all on bad days. She'd look at me with suspicious eyes, ask me who I was, what I wanted. Other times she'd call me Mama and cry, reverting to some childhood memory I couldn't access. She's in mid-stage now, Doctor. Kowalski, her neurologist, told me at one of her appointments. The progression has been aggressive. I'm sorry, Helen. I know this is hard. What's the timeline? I asked. I'd learned to ask clinical questions, to treat this like a project with stages and goals, rather than the slow destruction of the person I loved most. Hard to say. Could be years still. Could be faster. We'll keep her comfortable. The facility is equipped for late-stage care when we get there. When, not if. I nodded like this was acceptable information. I started having financial problems I couldn't solve with optimism alone. My credit card bills were climbing, groceries, gas, small expenses I'd been covering with plastic without thinking. My savings account, once robust, showed a balance that made my stomach hurt. Ken called again. Helen, you're in dangerous territory. You've depleted 70% of your retirement accounts. Your emergency fund is gone. You need to stop the withdrawals and let Roger and Margaret apply for state assistance. She's not going to some state facility. Then Roger needs to sell the house, liquidate assets, something. This cannot continue to come from you. I'll handle it, I said. How? I didn't have an answer. Diane called me the next week. Mom, I've been thinking, why don't you move in with us for a while? You could rent out the condo, save some money, still be close enough to visit Aunt Margaret. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're my mother. Please, let me help. Something in her voice made me pause. When had Diane started sounding so concerned, so involved? For months, she'd been distant, busy with her own life. Now suddenly, she was calling weekly, offering money, offering housing. Let me think about it, I said. Take your time. But Mom, I love you. I know this is hard. I'm here. I almost cried after we hung up. I'd felt so alone in this fight, and suddenly my daughter was showing up. It felt like grazie. I went to visit Margaret the next Tuesday. She'd been having a good week, according to Valerie. More lucid than usual, engaging in activities, eating well. I brought her some magazines, Southern Living, which she'd always loved. Oh, how lovely, she said when she saw them, and for a moment she sounded exactly like herself. Helen, you shouldn't have. Of course I should. How are you feeling? Tired, but good. The same. She smiled at me, and it reached her eyes in a way it often didn't anymore. You're too good to me. You always have been. You do the same for me. I hope so. I hope I was a good sister before all this. Sometimes I can't remember. You were perfect, I said, and meant it. Roger was coming by later, she told me. They were going to have lunch together in the courtyard if the weather held. I stayed for an hour, looking at magazines with her, helping her remember which house renovations she'd wanted to do, which recipes she'd planned to try. It felt almost normal. I left to use the bathroom, leaving my purse in her apartment, something I'd done 100 times. The facility bathroom was down the hall, past the nurse's station. On my way back, I realized I'd left her sweater on the chair by the door. She'd need it if they went outside. It was a cool day. I let myself back into her apartment quietly, not wanting to startle her if she'd dozed off. That's when I heard her voice, clear and bright, coming from the bedroom. You know the best part about all this, Roger? She actually thinks she's helping me. I froze. By Christmas, Margaret continued, we should have her completely tapped. Diane said her advisor called about the last withdrawal. Helen told him it was for my specialized care. God, she's so easy. The world tilted. I put my hand on the wall to steady myself, certain I'd misheard, certain this was some kind of hallucination. But Margaret kept talking. Did you get the deposit from the annuity? She asked. Her voice was perfectly normal. Not hesitant, not confused, sharp and businesslike. Should clear tomorrow, Roger's voice answered. That'll put us at just over $400,000 total. Diane's been brilliant, getting her to make it all out to Margaret's medical fund. Makes it clean. My sister, the teacher, always so fucking noble. Margaret laughed, actually laughed. Remember when I told you we should milk her for the memory care fees? I thought maybe we'd get 50, 60,000 before she wised up. But Diane had that idea about the special medications. The additional therapy's genius. Helen doesn't question anything if it's for my health. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process what I was hearing. When are you going to tell her the marriage is done? Margaret asked. After Christmas. Once we've drained the last of it. Then I'll file irreconcilable differences. She'll be too broke to contest anything. And I'll play the confused patient. Heartbroken that my marriage fell apart because of my disease. Helen will probably take me in, the saint. If she does, we keep going. Free housing. And Diane says there might be a small inheritance from Helen's mother still sitting in some trust. Maybe another $50K. They were quiet for a moment. I could hear movement, the sound of kissing. My sister. My husband of 32 years best friend. My baby sister who I'd raised and loved and sacrificed for. I need to go, Roger said. Meeting with the lawyer at 3 about the house refinance. We're pulling equity against Helen's deposits. Might as well maximize it. Don't forget we have that dinner thing tonight. I'll play Foggy afterward. Give you an excuse to leave early. You're so good at it now. Almost scary. Practice makes perfect. I heard footsteps coming toward the door. I barely had time to step into the alcove near the bathroom before Roger emerged, his face neutral, checking his phone. He walked right past me without looking up. I stood there for 10 minutes, maybe longer, trying to make sense of it. Trying to find some explanation that didn't destroy everything I knew about my life. There wasn't one? I went to the bathroom and vomited, washed my face, looked at myself in the mirror, this stupid, trusting, bankrupt fool staring back at me. Then I returned to Margaret's apartment, knocked softly. Come in. Her voice was warm, welcoming. She was back in her chair, the magazines open on her lap. When she saw me, her face arranged itself into that familiar, confused, almost smile. Oh, hello. I'm sorry, have we met? It's Helen, your sister. Of course. I'm so sorry. My memory, you know. It's just terrible. Did you bring those cookies? I watched her perform, watched her tilt her head just so. Watched the way she made her eyes slightly unfocused. Watched her fingers fidget with the magazine pages in that restless, confused way I'd seen 1,000 times. It was flawless. She'd probably been practicing in the mirror. No cookies today, I managed. Oh well. Maybe next time. Are you visiting? That's nice. I don't get many visitors. I visited every single day. She knew that. Or, rather, she knew that, and was pretending not to know. I have to go, I said. So soon? Well, it was lovely to meet you. She smiled at me with my mother's smile, my sister's smile, and all I could see was the calculation behind it. I drove home in a daze, sat in my condo, my small, cheaper condo that I'd bought to be close to her, and tried to think. My hands were shaking. I made tea and couldn't drink it. I pulled out my financial statements and looked at the numbers I'd been trying not to look at. $400,000. That's what they said. That's what I'd given them over 2 years, between the memory care bills, the medications, the therapies, the specialists, my entire retirement, Tom's life insurance, the equity from our home, everything we'd built over 40 years of teaching and saving and planning. Gone. And Diane, my daughter, had been brilliant, according to them. My daughter, who'd suddenly started calling more, offering to help, asking about my finances, who'd suggested I make everything out to Margaret's medical fund, for tax purposes, she'd said. Who'd probably known from the beginning. I called her. Couldn't help myself. Mom, how are you? How's Aunt Margaret? She's fine. Very lucid today, actually. A pause. Just a beat. But I heard it. Oh, that's wonderful. Those good days are such a gift. They are. Diane, I wanted to ask you something. Why did you suggest I set up that medical fund account for Margaret's care? What? I for taxes, Mom, remember? We talked about this. It just makes it cleaner. Right. Taxes. I was quiet, listening to her breathe, wondering if she could hear my heart breaking through the phone. How much did they promise you? What? How much is your cut, Diane? For helping them rob me? Silence. Long, damning silence. I don't know what you're talking about, she finally said, but her voice was different now. Careful. Margaret doesn't have Alzheimer's. I heard her today. Heard them both. Perfectly lucid, planning how to drain the last of my money. And you helped them. Mom, you're not making sense. You sound paranoid. Have you been sleeping? It was good. She was good. The concerned daughter, worried about her mother's mental state. I wondered how long they'd been planning this pivot, how to discredit me if I figured it out. Stay away from me, I said, and hung up. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. I just sat with my laptop, my phone, my documents, trying to figure out what to do. Who to tell. How to prove that a woman diagnosed by 3 different doctors Roger had chosen, I realize now, didn't actually have dementia. Because that was the beautiful evil of it, wasn't it? How do you prove someone doesn't have a disease that's diagnosed largely through observation and cognitive tests? Tests Margaret could fail on purpose. Symptoms she could perform flawlessly. I'd watched her do it for 2 years. My phone rang 3 times the next day. Diane. I didn't answer. Then Roger called. Helen, Diane's concerned about you. She said you made some very strange accusations yesterday. Are you feeling all right? I'm feeling clear-headed for the first time in 2 years. What's that supposed to mean? I know, Roger. I heard you. Both of you. In Margaret's apartment. I heard everything. Silence. Then, Helen, I think you're confused. Margaret and I haven't been in the apartment together in days. Maybe you fell asleep and had a dream? This stress has been enormous on you. I heard her, perfectly lucid, laughing about how easy I was to manipulate. That's impossible. Margaret has Alzheimer's, Helen. You know that. 3 neurologists confirmed it. She can barely remember her own name half the time. She was faking. Do you hear yourself? His voice was gentle, pitying. This is what caregiver burnout looks like. You've been under tremendous stress, you've depleted your savings, you're exhausted. Sometimes our minds play tricks on us when we're overwhelmed. I know what I heard. I think you should see someone. A therapist, maybe. Diane and I have been talking, and we're worried about you. This kind of paranoia, these accusations, it's not healthy, Helen. I hung up on him too. That's when I understood the next phase of their plan. If I accused them, I was paranoid, mentally unstable, suffering from caregiver burnout. Diane would reluctantly confirm it. Poor Mom, she's been under such stress, she's not thinking clearly. They'd paint me as unreliable, maybe incompetent. And who would believe me? A broke, exhausted older woman accusing her poor sick sister and grieving brother-in-law of an elaborate 2-year con? I needed proof. I spent 3 days researching. Private investigators cost money I didn't have, but I found a law student through a local university who did intern work for a firm specializing in elder fraud. Her name was Amanda, and when I told her my story, her eyes got very wide. Wow. That's elaborate. Can I prove it? Maybe. If we can document her acting normally, if we can trace the money, if we can find evidence that the diagnoses were somehow falsified or that she coached the doctors. She bit her lip. It won't be easy, but there might be a way. What do you need from me? Everything. Every document, every bank statement, every communication. And I need you to record your next visit with Margaret. Video, if possible. That feels invasive. She's been stealing from you for 2 years. I think you're past worrying about invasive. I bought a small camera that clipped to my purse. Went to visit Margaret the next day with my heart hammering. She greeted me the same way she had 100 times, confused, vague, eventually placing me as Helen, the sister. I talked to her about nothing. About the weather, about lunch, about the magazines I'd brought last time. And I watched, really watched, looking for tells, for breaks in the performance. They were tiny, but they were there. The way her eyes cleared for just a moment when I mentioned money before she caught herself. The way she forgot to act confused about something she'd forgotten the day before and had to correct course. The slightly different accent she used, a touch more hesitant, a touch more slurred than her real voice. I visited every day for a week, recording everything, building a timeline of her contradictions, her slips. On day 6, Roger showed up while I was there. "Helen, we need to talk," he said. "I'm visiting my sister." "You're harassing her. The staff says you're here for hours every day, asking her repetitive questions, recording her. It's upsetting her." "I'm documenting my visits. It's inappropriate. I'm asking you to stop. If you don't, I'll have to request that the facility restrict your access." "She's my sister. And she's my wife. And she's vulnerable. I won't let you badger her because you're having some kind of breakdown." "I'm not having a breakdown." "Then why are you acting like this? Making these insane accusations? Recording private conversations?" "Helen, please. Let me help you. Let us help you. Diane's found a good therapist who specializes in caregiver stress. Just talk to them. Please." He looked so sincere, so concerned. I'd known this man for 30 years. I'd been in his wedding. He'd been in mine. He'd called me crying when Tom died, had sat with me at the funeral, had brought me casseroles for a month. "You're very good," I said quietly. "What?" "At this? At looking like you care. I actually believe it, almost. Looking at you right now." His face hardened. "You need help, Helen. Professional help. And until you get it, I don't think you should be around Margaret. You're going to ban me from seeing her. If I have to." I left. Went home. Called Amanda. "They're going to cut off my access," I told her. "I won't be able to visit anymore." Then we move faster. "Do you have a primary physician?" "Dr. Brennan." "Why?" "Make an appointment. Get a full cognitive screening. Memory tests. The works. Create a documented baseline that you're mentally competent. If they're going to claim you're unstable, we prove otherwise." I did. Brennan, who'd been my doctor for 15 years, was confused by the request. "Helen, you're sharp as a tack. Why would you need cognitive screening?" "Humor me." I scored perfectly. She gave me the written results, signed and dated. "I don't know what's going on, but for the record, you're cognitively healthier than most 50-year-olds I see." "Can I get that in writing?" I asked. "You just did." I took the document to Amanda. She added it to the growing file bank statements, transaction records, emails from Diane about the medical fund, recordings of Margaret's contradictions, and timeline of the diagnosis and the doctors Roger had selected. "We need to confront them," Amanda said. "But not alone, and not without leverage. I want to bring my supervising attorney, and I want to do it somewhere public where they can't control the narrative." We arranged a meeting at a coffee shop. Neutral territory. I told Roger it was to discuss Margaret's care going forward, my role, the finances. He agreed, probably thinking he'd have another chance to paint me as unstable. He brought a lawyer. Of course it did. Margaret didn't come too confused for this kind of meeting, according to Roger, but Diane did. My daughter walked in looking nervous and defiant in equal measure. Amanda and her supervisor, a woman named Patricia Chen, were already seated. Roger's face when he saw them was almost worth the 2 years of hell. "What is this?" he asked. "This is a come to Jesus meeting," Patricia said calmly. "Sit down, Mr. Holloway. You too, Diane. I don't think—" "Sit down." They sat. Patricia laid out a folder. "We have documentation of systematic financial abuse spanning 2 years. $417,000 transferred from Helen Warren to accounts controlled by you and Margaret Holloway, ostensibly for medical care. We have recordings of Margaret Holloway demonstrating full cognitive function despite a claimed Alzheimer's diagnosis. We have email evidence of Diane Warren's participation in the scheme. And we have witness testimony from 3 staff members at Rosewood Memory Care who will testify that they've observed Margaret acting normally when she believes she's not being watched." Roger's lawyer started to speak, but Patricia held up her hand. "I'm not finished. We also have evidence that the initial diagnosis was provided by a neurologist who was your golf partner, Mr. Holloway, and who failed to perform standard secondary testing. We have bank records showing that you've refinanced your house twice using Helen's payments as proof of income. And we have documented proof that Diane Warren provided her mother with fraudulent tax advice specifically designed to make the transfers appear legitimate." The table was silent. Now, Patricia continued. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to return every cent. The full $417,000 plus interest. You're going to do it within 30 days. In exchange, we won't file criminal charges for elder fraud, conspiracy, and identity theft. Yet. You can't prove any of this, Roger said, but his voice shook. Patricia pulled out a tablet, turned it around, pressed play. Margaret's voice, clear and laughing. You know the best part about all this, Roger? She actually thinks she's helping me. I watched them watch it. Watched the color drain from Roger's face. Watched Diane put her head in her hands. The full recording is 18 minutes, Patricia said. Plenty of time for Margaret to demonstrate complete cognitive function. We also have video from 5 subsequent visits showing similar lucidity when she believes she's unobserved. Even if Margaret was exaggerating her symptoms, Roger's lawyer said carefully, that doesn't prove fraud. Memory care facilities often have patients with varying levels of impairment, good days and bad days. True, which is why we also have this. Patricia pulled out another document, affidavit from Dr. Sarah Brennan, Helen's physician, stating that Helen was evaluated and found to be cognitively sound at the time she was supposedly too confused to realize she was being defrauded. And this, another document, statement from a forensic accountant showing that the timing of your financial transactions, Mr. Holloway, correlates directly with Helen's withdrawals. You weren't struggling to pay for care. You were buying a boat. It's not illegal to buy a boat. It is when you purchase it, using money obtained through fraudulent pretenses. Diane finally spoke. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how far it had gone. They told me you wanted to help, that you'd offered. Stop talking, Roger said sharply. No. Diane looked at me, and I saw my daughter, my real daughter, underneath all of it. She was crying. Mom, they told me you knew. That you'd agreed to help financially and that setting up the medical fund was just for tax purposes. When I realized there were other things happening, I tried to back out, but they said you'd be upset, that you wanted to do this for Aunt Margaret. I should have asked you directly. I should have known. Diane, shut up, Roger hissed. I'm done shutting up. I'm done with all of it. She looked at Patricia. I'll testify to everything. What they told me to say, how they coached me, all of it. Roger stood up. This is insane. Margaret is sick. She has Alzheimer's. Multiple doctors confirmed it. Dr. Raymond Kowalski, your golf partner, confirmed it, Patricia said. Dr. Sandra Miller, who shares office space with Dr. Kowalski, confirmed it. Harold Chen, no relation, confirmed it after reviewing notes from the previous 2. Not one of them did independent cognitive testing. Not one of them ordered brain scans. Not one of them interviewed Margaret without you present. It was a rubber stamp diagnosis, and you know it. You can't prove that. We can try. In court. In public. Where every detail becomes part of the record. Where Margaret will be required to undergo independent neurological evaluation. Where the medical board will review whether those doctors performed due diligence. Where your financial records will be subpoenaed. Patricia leaned forward. Or you can write the check. Roger's lawyer whispered something to him. Roger shook his head, whispered back. They argued in low voices for a minute. Finally, Roger looked up. We don't have that kind of cash available. Then liquidate. Sell the boat. Refinance again. Take out a loan. I don't care how you get it. 30 days. And if we can't, then we file charges. And you can explain to a jury how your wife has been performing cognitive decline for 2 years, complete with coaching on which symptoms to display. I'm sure that'll go great. There was a long, terrible silence. I need to talk to Margaret, Roger finally said. I'm sure you do. Patricia closed her folder. 30 days, Mr. Holloway. Every cent. They left Roger practically dragging his lawyer, Diane trailing behind. She turned at the door, looked back at me. Mom, I really am sorry. I know that's not enough, but... Go, I said. After they left, I sat with the weight of it. The confirmation. The victory. The devastation. You did it, Amanda said softly. You got them. Yeah, I said. But I didn't feel triumphant. He felt hollow. The money came back in 3 installments over 28 days. Roger sold the boat, liquidated a retirement account, took out a loan against the house they still owned, the one they'd refinanced against my payments. It wasn't easy for them, and I didn't care. Diane tried to call me 4 times. I didn't answer. On the 5th time, I picked up. What? Mom, please. Can we talk? Can I explain? You helped them steal my retirement. I know. I was stupid and greedy. And I believed them when they said you'd agreed. I wanted to believe it because the money was good, and I told myself you'd offered, so what was the harm? But I know better now. I know what I did. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't rebuild 2 years of my life, Diane. I know. She was crying. You're my mom. I know. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I'm trying to be honest now. They manipulated me too, at first. Then I got in too deep, and I was scared, and I convinced myself it was okay. But it wasn't. And I know I can't undo it. I just need you to know that I'm sorry, and that I love you. I was quiet for a long time. I don't know how to have a daughter who did this to me, I finally said. I understand. Her voice was small. For what it's worth, I've left them. I told Roger and Margaret, I'm done. I gave a full statement to your lawyer. I'm trying to make it right. Trying isn't the same as succeeding. I know. We hung up. I didn't know if I'd ever talk to her again. Maybe. Eventually. But not yet. Margaret never broke character. Not officially. But 3 weeks after the money started coming back, Roger filed for divorce. She'd no longer need the memory care facility. According to the paperwork, the disease had progressed differently than anticipated, and she'd stabilized. The facility director called me personally. I wanted you to know, Margaret's being discharged. She's leaving. I'm sorry we couldn't give you more answers during all of this. You didn't know, I said. Some of the staff suspected. Toward the end, little things, the way she'd slip when she thought no one was watching. But we couldn't prove anything, and we're not diagnosticians. I'm sorry, Helen. You deserve better. She did leave. Moved to Arizona, I heard through the grapevine. Somewhere she could start fresh, where no one knew about the failed con, or the divorce, or the sister she'd robbed. I didn't go to see her before she left. Couldn't bear it. Let her vanish into whatever new life she'd build. This woman who used to be my baby sister. The money, when it was fully returned, went into a new account at a different bank with a different advisor. I paid off the debts I'd accrued. Bought back some of my retirement security, though not all 2 years of depletion couldn't be fully undone. But I had enough. Enough to keep my condo. Enough to live on. Enough to start rebuilding. 6 months later, I was in my garden again. I'd rented a small plot at a community garden, since the condo didn't have space for roses. I was deadheading blooms, thinking about nothing more complicated than whether to try the new Thai place for dinner, or just make stir-fry at home, when someone called my name. I turned. It was Valerie, the nurse from Rosewood. Helen, I thought that was you. How are you? I'm well. Really well, actually. I'm so glad. We all felt terrible about everything. The staff talked about it for weeks. You couldn't have known. Still, she paused. I wanted you to know, we implemented new protocols because of your case. Independent cognitive assessments for all new memory care patients. Quarterly evaluations by rotating neurologists. Family interview requirements. You helped protect a lot of people, Helen. What happened to you won't happen to someone else. Not on our watch. I hadn't thought about it that way. Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for fighting back. After she left, I sat with my roses and cried. Not from sadness, exactly. From relief. From release. From the strange grace of discovering that even the worst betrayals can create change, can mean something beyond the pain they caused. I'm still rebuilding. Still learning how to trust people again. How to set boundaries without building walls. Some days are easier than others. Diane and I have coffee once a month now. Awkward, careful coffee, where we talk about safe things, her kids, my garden, the weather. I don't know if we'll ever get back what we lost. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But we're trying, and that's something. I haven't spoken to Margaret. Probably never will. That door's closed, locked, and I threw away the key. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. But here's what I learned. What I want to tell you, if you're listening, trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And if you discover you've been betrayed by someone you loved, truly, deeply betrayed, it's not your fault. You're not stupid for loving them. You're not weak for missing them. You're not crazy for grieving what you thought you had. Even if it was never real, you're human. And humans survive unthinkable things every single day. I'm proof of that. So that's my story. The sister who faked dementia, the brother-in-law who helped her, the daughter who got caught in the middle and chose wrong. The 2 years I lost and the strength I found. The money I got back and the family I lost. The roses I'm growing in new soil. It's not the story I would have chosen, but it's mine. And I'm still here, still standing, still planting things and watching them bloom. If you're out there going through something similar, some betrayal you didn't see coming, some loss that gutted you, I hope you know you're not alone. I hope you know you're stronger than you think. And I hope you know that coming back from something unthinkable doesn't make you bitter or broken. It just makes you someone who survived. And that, my friend, is more than enough.